How would you describe the E-meter?
It's another part of a really good scam. Has there been a major upset in your life recently?
People need to know it's nonsense, it's pseudoscience, it's a pretence.
Do you believe this machine has any sort of religious powers?
I don't believe so.
Every good Scientologist has one, even two.
Why two?
In case one runs flat or you have trouble with it, you have a spare.
John Travolta, Priscilla Presley, Kate Ceberano and Kirstie Alley all use one, as does Scientology's #1 pin-up boy, Tom Cruise.
Tom Cruise would be doing this on a daily basis. He would be running this, he would be writing his worksheets on a daily basis, asking himself questions, telepathically communicating with beings, he thinks.
It's called an E-meter and was developed by the founder of Scientology, eccentric science fiction writer L. Ron Hubbard.
The one man in the world who never believes he's mad is a madman.
Here he is attaching a primitive version of an E-meter to a tomato, which Hubbard believed could feel pain.
Personally, I couldn't tell you what it's reading. I know what I thought it used to be reading, and that was, you know, your memories of things however many trillions of years ago you wanted to go back, sort of thing.
Someone using an E-meter holds these electrodes known as cans, as they're asked a series of personal questions in a type of counselling session called auditing. The Church of Scientology once claimed these sessions could cure many physical and mental illnesses.
When you think of something that has upset or stress connected to it, this shows up on the meter.
It works on the same principle as a lie detector. The E-meter sends an electrical current through the body. If you're feeling stressed or pressured, you sweat a little or hold the cans more tightly. And that changes the amount of current that flows, making the needle move.
What it's supposed to do is find areas of spiritual trauma in a person and enable the person to be steered into them.
For 30 years, Paul Schofield was a member of the church here in Australia. He was trained as an auditor and tells us that people are charged up to $100 a session. He believes the E-meter is nothing but a money-making con.
It's to get you in there, get you hooked on Scientology and empty your wallet. Has there been a particular heavy trauma in your life at some point? Did you think of something just there?
Today, Paul is putting me through an auditing session. When he asks me about past experiences, the needle does move.
Does this thing have some validity?
It has some validity. Every good scam has at least some validity.
The Church of Scientology wouldn't be interviewed for this story, but tells us the E-meter is a religious artefact used as a spiritual guide in auditing. They say it takes a lot of training to know how to use it with skill.
How were you trained to use the machine?
There's a couple of training films that sort of explain supposedly how it works, and there's a whole lot of meter drills that you do with it.
E-meters can cost up to $4,500. We bought this one on eBay for $800 and have brought it here to the University of Melbourne to unlock its secrets.
This is the main board that does most of the work.
Dr. Gavin Buskus is an electrical engineer. He confirms there's nothing special inside the E-meter.
The microprocessor in here is a early 1980s microprocessor, and a lot of these bits are very common bits you can get.
Dr. Buskus says there's a simple explanation why the needle moved when I was on the machine.
The needle moves depending on how my hands are holding these probes here. In other words, if I slightly take my fingers off, we see variations. If I twist them a little bit, I squeeze harder. Also, if my hands are sweaty, we'll see this needle moving more than what you would expect.
The church says because Dr. Buskus is not a Scientology minister, he would not know about the reactions caused by changes in grip, perspiration, coughing and environmental influences. But Scientology does admit the E-meter by itself does nothing. A disclaimer they're forced to make by US authorities.
Has the E-meter ever been subjected to randomised clinical trials to assess its efficacy?
I have no idea. I don't know why it would be. It works in Scientology, and that's what people use it in.
In an interview with Martin Bashir, Scientology's chief spin doctor, Tommy Davis, admits there's no scientific evidence the E-meter does anything at all.
But has it ever been tested objectively, is what I'm asking?
I mean, it gets used every day by Scientology counselors.
I'm not asking that. I'm asking...
To my knowledge, no.
The disclaimer says, by itself, this meter does nothing. And I tend to agree with it.
Does nothing.
The danger of an e-meter, according to former church members, is not what it does, but how it's used. They tell us that the Church of Scientology uses these things to elicit personal and sometimes damaging information about its members that can be later used against them.
I believe it's for blackmail material, because all of these things were written down, sometimes even recorded on video, and they would be kept, and still are kept.
How personal were the questions that you asked people when they were on the machine?
Incredibly prying. You know, there was no bars, no holds barred. You went in for, you know, in some cases you would be asking the person was what were they doing with their other hand, and that's, you know, it would get even more personal than that. That's what I was trained to do.
It's believed that Tom Cruise and Nicole Kidman's adopted son Connor was put on an e-meter from the age of 6. Scientology accused of using the machine to brainwash him and his sister Isabella to turn them against their mother. Now it's little Suri Cruise, who's also being put on the e-meter by the church. According to former member Marty Rathburn, she's being asked questions like, have you ever lied to a teacher? And have you ever gotten yourself dirty on purpose?
I would just be writing it down, page after page after page.
All my secrets.
Every single one.
Back on the machine, Paul is continuing my auditing session.
So all of this is pushing you into negative thoughts territory. Makes you vulnerable, makes you go, I need to change my life, and this machine knows more about me than I do.
And that's the power of it.
That's the power of it.
People will get upset, people will get distressed, people will be placed at risk. If you don't really know how to respond, you shouldn't be asking the questions.
Psychiatrist Professor Ian Hickey from the University of Sydney warns using the e-meter can do great harm to vulnerable people.
We have many instances where people have ended up breaking down, being hospitalised, moving away from conventional treatments with disastrous results due to these kinds of activities.
Being Scientologist, you look at someone and you know absolutely that you can help them.
What would be your advice to anyone who gets invited to be put on one of these machines?
Get up and walk away. Run if you need to.